Thanks for coming back for this second part of the video series, Us and Them. This part is more important in that I'm going to go over exactly the symbolism that Jordan Peele was using in this movie, more than just what the movie was about, even on the surface level. It's pretty easy to go through and find a lot of the trivia and to look at what other people think about the movie, but it really comes down to even more serious religious beliefs for Jordan Peele and moviegoers. Why is this important? It's important because as movies keep changing and turning into scenarios that we don't want to see, that are certainly unchristian and even Luciferian, we should be well aware of it because it can bring negative energy into our hearts, our minds, our souls, and into our homes. And we should be careful what we watch. We should be careful what we let others watch, as far as our children and family members, if we have any sort of control over that. And as saints, to be careful if we are watching something, to know, to understand the symbolism as far as whether we should continue watching it or not. Now, I'm not going to try to traumatize anybody with this description of this movie. I'm going to merely run through the rest of the description of the other part of the movie that we have left to talk about, and really talk about the symbolism more than anything. And so without further ado, I'm going to continue on with the rest of the story. In the last video, we ended with the family of Adelaide, Gabe, Zora, and Jason getting in a boat and getting away from the three surviving members, OA as I've been calling her, which is the other Adelaide, Pluto, and Zora. Switching scenes to Josh and Kitty's enormous home, the friends that I spoke of earlier in the first part, we see that their electricity has gone out as well, and while they have a backup generator, Kitty is scared and asks Josh to please go find out if someone is messing with their home. He is drunk and refuses to look. Kitty and Josh finally, after an ugly exchange, look out the window and he teases her that he sees O.J. Simpson. Josh says to Ophelia, which is this movie's version of Alexa, to play Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys, which annoys Kitty. Ophelia means help in Greek, which is quite ironic for this family soon. When the twins get up and Kitty tells them to go back to bed, two evil twins dressed like the other family in red immediately stab the twins to death with golden scissors. They fall down and are lying exactly the same as the twins from the Shining scene. Then another Josh and Kitty enter the room dressed in red and holding scissors. And Josh is killed immediately while Kitty is stabbed but remains alive. She takes time to die and while choking on her blood tells Ophelia to call the police. However, Ophelia hears Play F the Police by Ice-T and begins to play that song. Kitty is killed off by other Josh then, whose name according to cast credits is Tex. Dahlia is Kitty's alter, and the twins are Io and Nix. The four of them all look at each other after the killing in an almost humorous fashion. Of course, Josh and Kitty's house is the first place Adelaide and her family run to, because who would think this is happening to more than one family, and as noted a few times, they have a backup generator. Adelaide comes to the front door and seeing Tex, she thinks it's Josh because Tex is trying on Josh's housecoat. He opens the door and she quickly realizes something is wrong. The other family all pull her into the house while Adelaide's family watches on in horror. Gabe then taunts Tex to Josh's boat, which reads Byach, spelled B-Y-A-C-H-T-C-H on the back, which I admit is funny to me in my sometimes immature joke state, and lures Tex in order to kill him with ultimately a flare gun. I'm not sure how he dies by flare gun, but I've watched the movie about 3 times, and I still am not sure how Gabe was able to kill Tex with the flare gun, but he does. Meanwhile, Dahlia has Adelaide tied up while watching Tex die. She pretends to cry silently, then begins to laugh silently. She sits down and starts putting on Kitty's makeup and even cuts her face where Kitty had scars from her plastic surgery. Dahlia goes to Adelaide and acts like she will kill her with the golden scissors, but seems to work very hard to stop herself. For some reason, she seems aware that she should not or cannot kill Adelaide. Zora, coming in to save her mother, finds a golf club. Jason comes to help and grabs a large purple gemstone sculpture. The evil twins, Nix and Io, are doing cartwheels silently around the house the way the twins were doing cartwheels on the beach earlier in the film. Zora and Jason are able to take them out, and Zora reverts to the animalistic killing we saw in the character of Chris in the movie Get Out when he finally is able to escape the madness. They want to portray this animalistic anger, reminding us that Hollywood elitists are racist above all and want to continue to oppress the black community. When Zora tries to kill Dahlia, Dahlia sees her and begins to attack her. Luckily, Jason takes Dahlia out with the gemstone sculpture. The family sits around at Josh and Kitty's home, and Jason asks how many more other families are there going to be. That seems to turn on a light bulb for everybody, and they all look toward the TV. They turn on the news and see that everywhere people are being killed by strange people in red suits with golden scissors. The news does not report that they are us, and Jason points out that no one knows yet. The news shows many red suit people holding hands in a long line. The family is unsure why this is, as well as reporters. The family realizes they now have Josh and Kitty's fancy car, and they all jump in before they see that they don't have the keys. Adelaide goes back in for the keys, and of course, one twin is not dead for more tense and thrilling moments, and Adelaide kills her with the fire poker that she's still carrying around. Let it be noted, Adelaide is still wearing the handcuffs. She gets to the car where some comic relief plays out in the scene, but also I think points to the desensitization of killing other humans. When Adelaide and Zora fight over who gets to drive by how many kills they've had, and Gabe pipes in that he's killed himself, essentially, and the other Josh, so somehow he's ahead, that's when we see Umbre again, way out in front of the car, standing eerily in the headlights. Adelaide gets in the back seat, and Zora hits the gas to try to run over Umbre, who simply jumps on the car like an animal and runs to the top to try to get in with her scissors. At some point, she falls on the hood, and Zora confuses her with the windshield wipers, and Zora is able to come to a screeching halt, sending Umbre into the trees. Of course, they can't just leave her there because she will never stop coming for them, so Adelaide goes to see if she's dead because Gabe is a common cuck, we have learned clearly by now. Adelaide finds Umbre upside down in a tree, dying but laughing. She dies in front of Adelaide, and Adelaide hushes her as she dies just watching. After this, they leave the scene, and the family drives back to their home city and see wrecked and abandoned cars, fires, and all-around disarray. They turn the last corner to their home, and they see a car on fire in the middle of the street. Jason says, "Is that our car?" They immediately know that Pluto must be there, and started their car on fire for them to see upon return. If Pluto is there, then OA must be there. They hear a thump, and Pluto backs up from the front of the car. They all lock the doors. Pluto stops and starts snapping his fingers, reminiscent of how Adelaide and Jason were snapping their fingers to a song earlier in the movie. Pluto pulls out a match. Jason suddenly says, "It's a trap, get out of the car." They all jump out and move away quickly, and we can see that there's some kind of fluid running all the way from Pluto to the car. That's when Jason recalls that Pluto will mirror him. Jason spreads his arms out and walks backwards slowly, which forces Pluto to walk backwards and into the fire he himself started. For some reason, Adelaide calls out to Pluto and cries, "No!" Where Jason has stopped after Pluto falls dead in the fires, a shadowy figure rises up, and we see it's OA, who snatches Jason up and runs off with him. The family, realizing he's gone, starts yelling out to him. Adelaide starts running to find him. Zora goes to follow, but Cuck Gabe stops her and says, "Let her go, your mom knows what she's doing." Somehow Adelaide runs all the way back to Santa Cruz, which seems to be a really long drive, as she could have just driven back in the new car. When she gets to the beach, she sees where the first man was holding his hands out, and now hundreds more people have joined him and are holding hands in a line, much like the initial commercial we saw about hands across America, even into the ocean waters. This is when the symbolism from the beginning really comes into play, as the story gets tied together at the end. Adelaide goes into the mirror house, still clutching her fire poker. The owl with red eyes jumps out, and Adelaide hits it with the poker, breaking it off the wall. Somehow Adelaide seems to just know where to go. She opens a door, and a white rabbit exits as she enters. She is in some industrial area where she has to go downstairs. At the bottom of the stairs, there is a door. When she opens it, it's none other than a golden escalator leading down even further, and it is well lit. Adelaide goes down the escalator until she comes to some underground hallway with rabbits everywhere. The floors are a light-colored tile, light-colored walls, and bright lighting reminiscent of a psych ward or hospital. There are classrooms with lights flickering on and off, adding to the eerie, abandoned ambiance. In the classrooms, there are cages, which we saw in the intro to the movie, that once held all the rabbits. Recall, OA talked about having to eat raw and bloody rabbit growing up as the shadow to Adelaide. As Adelaide walks slowly through the halls looking for OA and Jason, she grips her fire poker. She finally finds OA in a room cutting up paper into people holding hands. OA begins to explain the story of what has been going on for many years. She tells how they, the shadows, were created by an unknown power to control the above people and are called the tethered. They are clones created as two bodies, but with only one shared soul. Eventually, the project abandoned The clones were left alone forever and were driven to insanity, only able to carry out the acts of the tethered above to whatever degree that they could. OA describes the moment she and Adelaide crossed paths at the funhouse and how she didn't understand why she didn't take her with her. She then goes on to explain the moment everything changed for the tethered. Flashes of Adelaide dancing on the stage gracefully occur in between sections of the story OA is telling. Below in the tunnels, OA as a child mimics the moves perfectly, gliding across the floor with ease, while the tethered watch her. The other tethered people beneath the ground with OA, upon watching her dance, realized she was different. OA would be the one to bring them from the darkness of the tunnels to the light above. The tethered prepared for years for their chance to seek revenge in an event OA planned around her Hands Across America t-shirt that she grew up seeing every day. This event was to be called the Untethering. Now, with Adelaide in her midst, OA plans to kill Adelaide and live the life she should have been given. She says, quote, "It's our time up there," end quote. The battle is now on. I Got 5 on It, the song we heard earlier, is playing again, but now in a more classical and intense version. Heightens to a terrifying crescendo in the background. Adelaide and OA dance, so to speak, for their lives as they begin to battle each other. Adelaide gets easily stabbed and wounded by OA, who moves with deliberate and swift steps. Adelaide can hardly keep up with OA as she uses her skills to dodge all attacks. It appears that OA is a phenomenal dancer with fast feet, and Adelaide cannot keep up. Adelaide, high on the adrenaline of survival, finally lands a life-taking blow, not by skill, but more by sheer luck as it would seem, causing OA to fall to the ground. As OA fades away, she begins to whistle Itsy Bitsy Spider. Before she can finish, Adelaide strangles her to death, laughing in a quiet and evil way. When she comes back to her senses, she searches for Jason. She finds Jason hidden in a locker, and when his mother tries to look him in the eyes, he just stares at her in fear. She comforts him by telling him that they are safe, and puts her hand up for the special handshake, which he joins in. Outside, Gabriel and Zora, who happen to be back on the beach as well, are sitting near an ambulance, and they are ecstatic to reunite with their family. All appears well, with everyone safe and reunited. The family drives away from the chaos and away from all the red hands across America in the ambulance, which happens to say 1111 on the roof. Just then, we're gifted with another flashback. Going back to 1986, back to the funhouse where the horror started, the sinister young girl in the mirror who had her back to Adelaide turns around with a freakish grin, reaches out, and grabs Adelaide by the neck, knocking her unconscious. She drags the girl underground to the tunnels, handcuffs her with the cuffs we would see when OA tells Adelaide to tether herself to the table. She steals the girl's newly won Thriller shirt, leaving her with her own original Hands Across America shirt she was wearing before her father won the Thriller shirt, and escapes above ground. Perhaps the biggest twist of the entire film, it is revealed that OA was the happy young girl who was stolen from her family, forced to stay below and endure the life of the cloned, while the imposter got to live above ground and grow up with original Adelaide's parents. The reason she wasn't talking was because she couldn't. She had no knowledge of language and had to learn to speak English. In fact, it was the dancing suggestion to bring out her story that made underground Adelaide the person she became, with the plan to take out everyone above ground. Her skills proved she was different, and she could speak the above's language. It became a lifelong obsession for her to get her life back in the above, but to also free all the below clones. Back to current day, Jason looks knowingly at his mother as she drives toward their new lives. Perhaps Jason was switched as well at some point, unknowingly, to the underworld. Their bond was special for some hidden reason. It would have had to have been when he was very young, as the burns on Pluto's face were long healed, and he could not speak. This connection is merely suggestive throughout the film, and I cannot confirm this theory with much proof except small, curious ways Jason behaves and speaks throughout the movie. Recall that in Friday the 13th, it was really Jason's mother who was the killer, seeking revenge against all, passing off as her son Jason, who had drowned years before as a child. As Adelaide is driving the ambulance away, she notices Jason looking at her, possibly aware of Jason's attentiveness to who she really is, and she just smiles. In summary, what does it all mean? This movie is so full of symbolism, of hermetic alchemy, and as above, so below emphasis, that we could just stop right there with why this movie was created. However, you know me, there is even more to it than this. Jordan Peele is trying to pretend he is making a social justice horror film, impressing the idiots at the racist Hollywood foreign press and the mainstream media with his ability to take new steps to warn America of our impending self-caused doom. That's the narrative cover story. But the truth is, Peele is pushing the New World Order agenda with his escalators, golden symmetrical scissors, red clothes, white clothes, ascension symbolism, and all the constant 1111, which was impossible to miss. The above family was recorded from above with their shadows long moving next to them in an 1111 manner. The below family stood the same way with the backlight and their shadows cast long in front of them on the driveway while they were the shadows themselves. The TV news channel, the game score, the clock time, all pointing to an increase in synchronicity and coincidences showing a shortening of time, similar to how Satan's time is getting shorter. The Black Flag shirts also have an 1111 look to them. I remembered, when looking into Black Flag, the band, of how Henry Rollins was in the TV series Sons of Anarchy, and he portrayed a white supremacist. This could be a nod to the racist Hollywood foreign press or the intention to point to Nazis in America, supposedly on the right. Black Flag voiced an anti-authoritarian and nonconformist message in songs punctuated with descriptions of social isolation, neurosis, poverty, and paranoia. The perfect resistance band. They are regarded as pioneers in the movement of the underground, do-it-yourself record labels that flourished among 1980s punk rock bands. Yet another underground reference. As were many of the movies mentioned in the beginning, such as The Goonies and Chud. Peele purposely names everyone in this movie. Adelaide means nobility. We see in entertainment, especially from Hollywood, the dousing themselves in backgrounds of videos, movies, and interviews, etc., in purple and emerald, pointing to the desire and belief they will rule as gods. Emerald is important to them because of the Emerald Tablet of Thoth. The Emerald Tablet is a compact and cryptic piece of the Hermetica reputed to contain the secret of the prima materia and its transmutation. It was highly regarded by European alchemists as the foundation of their art and its Hermetic tradition. So what that means is another philosopher's stone, basically. And I talk about transmutation a lot in the videos that I made about the movie Get Out. In fact, it was entirely about that. The purple color of royalty, I think, stems from the Saturn occult belief of the purple dawn, a time that some believe was when Saturn was close to Earth and was providing heat instead of the sun. Its nearness to Earth created a purple color in the atmosphere rather than the bright daytime blue we know today. And since they worship Saturn and they believe of Saturn as a god, then the purple is a godly color. The golden scissors are reminiscent of the gold scythe pagans used to cut mistletoe. This was done in worship to Saturn, and the mistletoe, after being cut down, was not allowed to touch the ground, which is why we hang our mistletoe at Christmas time, another pagan holiday. The biblical names went to the men named Abraham and Gabriel. The significance here, I think, is to ridicule Christians. Abraham, the father of all God's people for future generations, and Gabriel being the archangel messenger. I've explained what Zora, Jason, Umbre, and Pluto might mean already. Tex, aka the other Josh, seems to refer to Tex Watson, Charles Manson, and Helter Skelter. Tex was at the center of the Manson family, and he partook in the famous murders. Dahlia is a nod to the Black Dahlia murders. Io is a moon to Jupiter, Jupiter being equivalent to Zeus, the god of the sky and thunder. It is notable Io was also turned into an ox by Zeus. Nyx is a satellite to Pluto. These last two of Io and Nyx appear to be servants to gods. Nyx was also a goddess mother of 9 children of the underworld. What we never get is the other Adelaide's name. Most synopses call her Red, which tells me that Peele must have called her this too. With all the spider symbolism and the story of the Hopi Indian Spider Queen, it seems that OA was deemed the queen of the belows, the Spider Queen bringing her people to the surface to reign above again. And we know that they're waiting for her to come still. As a reminder in Hermetic alchemy, the transition to ascension begins in the dark, eyes closed, black. Then enlightenment and eyes opened, white. Then comes acceptance, red. And then full ascension, gold. Adelaide is wearing white the whole movie, but slowly her clothes turn red as she battles and has to kill others. Upon her final kill of the other Adelaide, her white clothes have been stained to red. Also, believed in this Luciferian alchemical belief system is the need for duality to unite. It seems the movie is showing a need for unity of the people below and the people above due to 2 bodies and 1 soul. However, the untethering really seems to end that possibility and could be a warning to elites from Jordan Peele. The irony is that this movie is pretending to be woke to truth, to social injustice, and to the ugly heart of America, while being puppeted by liars, racists, and people who think they can rule us and use us as mere animals in their animal farm. Unfortunately, the elite always seem to forget to read the rest of the story. In Revelation 9, we know a locust army will rise from the earth to torment any without the seal of the Lord, that they will torment and cause pain and tribulation, that men will seek death and not find it. In the Quran, this time is described as a time when the evil Yajuj and Majuj arise from a place where they were walled up and could not escape. These were the most vile, corrupt, and evil creatures that only in end times will be able to escape. Muslims are warned to gather in the mountains to hide on that day, that the Yajuj and Majuj will come out like a swarm and kill so fast that men must do nothing but run from them. Similarly, we see this in Revelation chapter 20, verses 7 through 8. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. It seems as though Peel and all those who believe in their globalism, one world government, new world order, believe that this will be their time to reign. Like O.A. said, it's our time up here. And that the taking over of the above to make it like the below had to be so drastic and fast so as to make a statement. Many had no time to even run and were killed with the symmetrical golden scissors before they knew what was even going on. But as in Jeremiah 11:11, which Peel so loved to point to, the Lord will bring a great evil upon them. This is noted in Revelation chapter 20, verses 9 and 10. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. The Quran describes this as a time the Lord will put a worm parasite in the necks of Yajuj and Majuj that will spread disease, killing them all at once as one body. I suppose in the satanic book or worship material that people like Peel and his Hollywood elite friends use skips this part of the story because it shows that Yeshua HaMashiach wins. In their minds, that cannot be the case. The battle will come, but somehow they believe they can still be victorious. I say it's time we all clearly and thoroughly come to understand the rest of the story according to Yeshua, our one true Lord and Savior. Believe it truly when I tell you it is finished. Our Lord Yeshua wins, and without faith and trust in him alone, so do we. God bless, saints.